I'm a dean for the School of Science and Technology at American Public University. So I'm a nerd. I just put on ties to look a little cool out here and so on. I come from a university called Indian Institute of Science, Indian Institute of Technology, called IITs. If you haven't heard of that, I would say Google it. It's the nerdiest school in the world. About 500,000 people compete, and you go for like a 2-day, I think like an 8-hour exam. I forget, it's been a while ago. You got to forgive me for my lapse in memory and so on. But an 8-hour exam, and they select about 2,000 people for about 5 campuses. And once you get in there, so in fact, the school has such a high reputation that most of the people who apply for that school use Harvard and MIT as a backup. So if they don't get in there, they come to Harvard and MIT. And we were on 60 Minutes, and Leslie Stahl was just amazed. Whoever would think that Harvard and MIT was a backup for anybody. So it's a tough school to get into. The acceptance ratios obviously is very, very high or very low, depending on how you want to look at it. I've done projects. I've done consulting assignments at the White House, the Senate. I've published books. So I'm a fully confirmed nerd. If you were, just look up my bio on the net. But with that, we're here to talk about trends, and let me just kind of warn you or set the expectations. I'm not here as a futurist. There are times that's a whole different world. I'm just here as just talking about some trends and some things that we have to deal with in today's world. Okay? It hasn't happened yet. Let's say how do I say this well? You have to deal with reality. The reality is here. We just haven't dealt with it really, and that's what makes it future. There's a lot of future stuff that's fun, but I think that we'll say that for the future, right? Here are some common trends in jobs. And we'll take the second row. I won't talk to every single one of them because there's a whole lot of stuff to do. You can just read a lot of the general things going on, which I can most of us understand. Actually, if you go to the first column and third row, in technology is going to, today I have to pay FIOS some money and they put in some connections and so on, and that's the way it works. A day is going to come when you don't even have the concept of having to, get a subscription to get to the net. It's going to be, just like the power, just like water and so on. You don't go into I got to be cautious about this. You don't go into an urban area, because actually I went to some rural areas and I was surprised. There's another side to every story. But in the urban area, I don't go into a new house and say, by the way, do you have running water in this house? You don't ask that kind of question. They'll know you're from another country like me, kind of, So same thing. That's a day was coming when, actually a few years from now, when that's going to happen on the net too, and it's more and more popular. Even with Wi-Fi today, you can get Wi-Fi in a whole lot of places. And so if you have your iPads and so on, you can go anywhere else. But I would say one of the biggest things to observe here is the rise of advancing markets. There are advancing markets coming up in the US as well as in other countries. Okay? But if you go over one slide, R&D is moving to Asia. Actually, I told you about the IITs. Actually, the US, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but R&D is a big problem in the US, right? We all know that. So what they did is they know that future wars are going to be based on information and based on technology, right? Nobody goes with swords anymore and fights anymore, right? So that's not going to happen in the future. So they want the edge on technology, and they're realizing there's not much fundamental research taking place in America. There's no economic incentive for that. So what they did was they signed a number of contracts from at very different high levels, starting with the Senate and the Select Committee on Intelligence and so on, with my school actually back in India. Not my school, the one I came from is what I mean. So they actually, a lot of R&D is being done there, and so that started many years ago, and a lot of R&D takes place there. But here's the other big trend. In my generation, all of us wanted to come to America. Coming to America was like a dream, right? In today's world, a lot of people are going to India. you want surgery, go back to India. That's we all know about that. You get good surgery for lower prices. You can get you can get a very good education in India for much lower prices. So you can lower the cost and get high value. So a lot of people go there. And secondly, a lot of R&D for technology companies. Take Oracle. All the major companies do the R&D in India. So if you want a job there, nothing better than go to one of the local universities there that's sponsored by them. So that's a little surprise. And of course, Mr. Oppenheimer, of course, here is he loves the stuff. The most important stock that went IPO in 2011 was a technology stock, and we were just talking. He said that's his background and so on. I couldn't help overhear the whole conversation. Technology is a good investment or a good place to be. Now, tablets, smartphones, we have them all over the place. And you're wondering why is that trendy? I was here last year, and I said what's going to happen in the IT world is that tablets are going to revolutionize the way we think. Not in terms of devices. A device is a device; they just make it. But in the good old days, if you were a CIO of an organization, you design the networks, you design the laptops, and you said in this place you only use Macs. In this place you only use you set all the standards and everybody complied. In today's world, that has changed with the consumerization of devices and with the empowerment of the younger generations. They bring the device and say, listen, I got this device, how are you going to make this work for me? So the concept is bring your own device. So that's a big trend. And I'm going to talk about some of the major issues there is security. The number one issue in a lot of these devices is security, and we have a slide for talking about that as we go up. And actually some of the big things are interfaces. We're going to talk about why this becomes important, both in learning and otherwise. You can read, I won't read through every single one. We have some of them. And by the way, let me clarify. In-memory computing is not in memory of. It's not like somebody passed on or something like that. Normally computing takes place in CPUs and so on, and it uses data in hard drives, the stuff that rotates and so on. But a lot of these now, the newer devices are going to be using more of the like the flash drive concept. So it does a lot of the computing using that memory as opposed to paging out and so on. And actually, I have a series of slides. It said this. The reason we can do that today, in the good old days, storage was a big issue. So you had to take things off that memory just to be able to reuse the memory, right? Much like we couldn't have a separate room here for every single session, so we reuse the sessions. Some people leave and some people come in here. And that's how we treated memory. But in this day and age, memory has become so inexpensive and it's so humongous that we don't need to do paging anymore. In fact, in the good old days, there used to be another concept called overlaying, not just paging, and that's where paging came from too. Extreme data is another thing. In today's world, there's just so much data that you just cannot. It's like if I throw maybe about 2,000 pages over here and leave it with you and walk away, it won't mean anything, right? So I have to kind of sift through and get the right amount of information that you can do something with. So extreme data concepts are a big thing. Server farms. You're going to see a lot more lightweight servers, not as heavy. And the term we use in the industry is you dumb them down. You take away all the fancy things. It does two good things. The more I dumb a server down, it's more secure. For example, just say I can't talk English here. I can only talk 3 words: yes, no, and all right. And let's say one of you is a spy and wants to get and you want to get something from me. You can't do too much with me because I can't say too much, right? But the more I know, the more dangerous I become. So that's another indirect benefit. And it's easier you can get a lot more power out of 1,000 lightweight, both in terms of power, footprint, and everything else, than about 2 or 3 large servers. And the next thing is, of course, cloud computing. We've heard a lot about that. And then we got a lot about, let's say we're going to try and see if my internet connection is still working. We'll look at a few surface technologies. Interfaces. Touch, of course, is very common, right? We all use devices. We use our fingers and touch and use a touch screen. And by the way, with all due respect, Steve Jobs did not invent the touch screen, even though he gets a lot of credit. Okay, he gets a lot of credit for being, let's say, for putting Apple back. Should have gone under many years ago, but he brought it back, so he's a genius that way. But touchscreen existed about 25, 30 years before he ever brought it onto the iPods and iPod Touch and so on. Then voice. Voice has been around, interactive voice response systems. You all heard of Dragon Speak and those kind of things. But where it becomes a natural part of using the computer, you know, you can use Dragon, you can say open word, you can do all those kind of things. But where it becomes much more as if you communicate normally. Actually, even with the Droid today, if I'm in the car, I'm looking for directions. You just ask the navigator and bring the navigator up, and you say, "I'm going to wherever you're going to," and it kind of brings it up. Only thing after that you have to choose. It'll be nice if you say the third one or something. But again, it was a good start. So voice-activated interfaces are going to become a bigger thing. And then another one is adaptive. And actually, let me add one more thing. I'm going to add a concept called augmented reality. Okay. Let's see. Just say I'm driving my car past P Street, and when I pass by, between 15th and 16th Street, and I'm just looking, and I'm looking for directions where to go and so on, or just say I'm looking for a conference, and I don't remember the name, Dupont, something, I don't remember all that. I just said technology conference, and the moment I pass by, it'll list all the conferences that are taking place in the vicinity. So it'll show me it's showing me the actual world plus augmented stuff that's really not real, but it will show me, so it adds more value to me. And then next thing is motion. You'll use, you've seen the Wii systems and so on. You can play games, and you got the Guitar Hero, you can do those kind of things. So you got a lot of motion sensitive kind of things that are going on, but that's using additional devices. But the next step is gesture, and actually I might show you a slide quick video right after this, where you don't even need a device. You can just say, for example, like right now, you do this, to open something and make them larger. You can just do something like that and use different gestures without even touching anything. And that means a lot for two reasons. Actually, there was a doctor that's talking to some folks out here, but the number one thing is I don't have to touch it, so the screen, whatever, will have a longer life. There are a lot less germs to worry about. In fact, if you're in a public place, the bathroom is not the dirtiest place for germs, it's the keyboards. Okay, so if you're in a hotel, right, if you're in a hotel, if you ever have to use the one in the lobby or in the little side room, first thing is don't use it, to the best policy. Not just for germs, actually that's the least of your worries because you can wash your hands after that, but security-wise there's a lot more issues there, but that's for another day and time. And of course, so gestures, and finally eye movements, where I can just kind of, make move things with my eye, and actually, the place eye movements, I'm kind of older now, but when you're younger, eye movements meant a lot when you were in the dating process, right? Some of us are older, it's kind of, what's he talking about now? Okay, but this is what made it all possible. This is the growth of the internet. Actually, I was working down the street here at the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. I was the director for MIS and so on, I forget, 15 years ago, 20 years, well, maybe more than that, almost 25 years ago. And time flies, right, when you're having fun. We bought a 10 megabyte hard drive, okay? And for you younger people, you're going to think this guy's just making it up. Right? But it used to be about so big. I think it had about 6 or 8 platters. Okay? So when you carried something like this. And when you carried it very delicately, like you're carrying like a bowl of, what do you call it, Jello or something is going to just go over. And it was very delicate. And in those days, when they talked about crashes, the drive crashed, it was a physical crash. The head ran into the plate. In today's world, it doesn't happen, but still call it a crash. But just to give you an idea, for about 10 megabytes, which was, we thought that was the coolest thing ever, 10 megabytes, man. How could anything get better than this? We paid $50,000. Okay, today you can buy, actually you can buy, I don't know, I might have my prices maybe out of date, but you can get like a 16 gig flash drive for about $10, right? So it's really cheap. So you got a lot more space for a lot less. And then, let's see. We used to the gigabyte world. So in the gigabyte world, here's some general things. If you have 1 gigabyte, you can get about 7 minutes of HD video and so on. And if you had a shelf, you can get over 20 yards worth of shelf data in there, and so on. But just to give you some ideas, I mean, of course, we know 1 kilobyte is 10 to the power 3 bytes, right? And so on. But once you get beyond the meg and the gig is 10 to the power 9 bytes. And terabyte, we're in the terabyte world, you can buy terabyte backup drives and so on. So you're used to that. But what's coming up the next couple of years is the petabyte. But that's a tough word to say because, unfortunately, you say petabyte sounds like a pedophilia or something. So it's, I wish they would use some other name for that. But petabyte is going to be coming out pretty soon. And we want to see what this means, this 10 to the power 15, okay? The good old those filing cabinets, again, for the older generations. Younger generations don't relate to a lot of things. It's amazing in today's world, there are people that don't know what a cassette tape is, right? Maybe some in the room, I don't want to embarrass anybody, but what? Okay, I'm glad you're trying to be young. So there's 20 million of those file cabinets. And imagine 13 years of non-stop movies. I think I'll buy my wife one of those every now and then, and she just loves those old movies. She loves movies, and so on. And it can store 1.5 of them can store all of the pictures on Facebook. Okay, and here's something. If you get 20 of such drives, it's the total amount of data that's stored by Google, that's processed by Google in a day. And Google goes through a ton of stuff, right, and so on. So really, the reason that was important is, if you didn't have that kind of storage in such a small space, you would not be able to do all the things you do with your devices. So that's why the devices are going to get better. Then I'll go through it quickly, and but can I run over 10 minutes? Anybody, can you stay 10 minutes more beyond 5 o'clock? Okay. So I'll try to go through quickly on this part. Tablets, here the market share, and by the contrary to normal perceptions, Androids have the largest market share in terms of devices. Because we all know why tablets are good, and by the one of the things you got to remember, all these advantages translate into the classroom. The kind of interface you have, the rich media, and so on. And I think the best part is the form factor. You can carry it around. You just pick it up, take it around with you. Here I kind of carry this on my lap and my arms like this, and it was a big monstrosity now. It was a great thing in its time, and that's instantly on. That's good and bad. For the CIO, that's bad because if I left it out here, then all you do is this good-looking gentleman here, Mr. David, you could just take that and turn it on, move that, and he could look at things that, and actually looking at it is one thing, that's a privacy issue, but he could plant something else in there, which will also cause more problems. Battery life is great too, that's a good thing, and we know there's plenty of apps. Let's see. And by the way, actually in many restaurants, they've already started using this, where the menu's on an iPad, and you can just choose what you want. It goes to the chef, and you can pick all your options and so on. So you go to some restaurants, and by the way, if you like steak, and then Final Cut is a good place. I come from the land of the sacred cow, so steak is good. No offense to anyone. Okay. Tablets, let's see. The problem with tablets is security. That's the number one problem. By the way, that's not a reason not to get into it. In fact, that's a mistake some CIOs have made. It's like this. I could just cross the street over here and get hit by a truck or anything else. right? But it doesn't stop you. That doesn't stop you from crossing the street. You just kind of take the right precautions. And being aware is the main thing. And then having multiple OSs is another problem. And the other problem with that is there's no physical keyboard. Of course, you can buy a ZAG or something else, but it just doesn't come with the system. And then everybody fusses about the USB port. I think we got used to that, flash drives and so on. But from security standpoint, that's a problem. Yes, sir.
But USB flash drives, is it not an issue only with one particular tablet? I think the Android tablets have that, so it's not generally a tablet. Just that one company decides to make it one way, that becomes a de facto.
You're absolutely right. Point one thing, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's an iPad and some others. You're absolutely right.
It's not technology.
Right. It's not technology, absolutely right. But the other thing is provisioning. If people need, if I need Wi-Fi connectivity, and here I do talk to the other gentleman about signing onto the internet, so you need that kind of access to the net over there. Just some quick data on apps. You can see the average user has 22 apps on their phone. I'm not into, that's it. I'm just going to move on from there. It's a great business to be in. If you want to get into good business, make apps. 50 billion apps were downloaded, in an average year. Let's see. Okay, something more about apps. You can see the general thing is, again, this is where Steve Jobs gets the notoriety. There were apps always, but I think he made it a consumer item, right? So he did some things and he promoted the concept. So now you have a lot more apps. Before you could download from the net, but he made a app store, the Apple Store, and so on. And I think there's one more coming on. You can see if you want the most free apps, you go to the Google. The lighter gray is the free apps, and so that's the Google has the Android market has the most free apps, and they're comparable. Actually, let's see, it's on this. Apple has about 3,500 approximately in that range, and you can see Android is about 225. That's not too far. It's like this. Some people say, but this is the amazing thing. Somebody will tell me, Dan, I don't want the Android because Apple has more apps. But you like the Apple Go, I don't care which one you get, but don't base it on that decision. If I got 225,000 to choose from, who cares if there's another 100,000 on top of that elsewhere? Okay? Be rational. Here's some things that we need to get and will get. It's Apple, the iPad, tablets are going to be definitely an interface device, common interface device into most of the centralized devices and so on. We'll move on for one at a time. But for them to really be a force, in the enterprise, I'm talking from the CIO perspective, it needs to have device independent. You need applications that and infrastructures where it's device independent. You don't care whether it's an Android, with Apple, you plug it in, it works. Just like your printers today, right? You don't care which printer you get, you plug in, if you got Photoshop, you print, it's going to print, right? There's some, some little issues over color and so on, but beyond that, you don't care. So you need device independence, you need the operating system, independence. And the other thing is your security infrastructure should be standardized so you don't compromise it. So you need, regardless of, once you get your network, regardless of which device you plug in, your security should be standardized and so on. And same thing with the storage architecture, because here's the other thing. The worst form of security is, and this is the bad thing, if you can go into a place and plug in my flash drive, I can download your files and leave with it. So that's the worst form of security, because now it's totally compromised, right? Because social media, you'll move on. Maybe this is the one general thing. One of the biggest dangers, as you know, on social media is the fact that it's a dangerous world out there. Okay. Now, if I'm going into a bad part of town, somewhere 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm extremely aware, right? Your hair on your skin is kind of bristling, and you are, you walk a little taller and act a little tough and so on. You automatically adjust. The problem on the internet, and especially in the social media world, is people say and do things without being aware of what's going on. And by the, this is interesting. They actually did a study and surveyed burglars to find where they get information from. 78% of burglars use Facebook, Twitter, and Foursquare for getting the potential properties they want to hit, right? And 74 use Google Street and so on to actually scope and get into places and so on. And actually, these are some sad cases. Somebody said they were going to a funeral, put that on Facebook, that the funeral is taking place at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, whatever it was. And guess what? That's on Facebook. Somebody else sees it. They know there's a funeral. They're out there. They're not at home. So they hit their home. It's sad that there are people in the world that have stooped so low, but they're the facts of life. And another thing I must warn you against is, these cameras on your cell phones are really nice things. But be careful with all the settings, because once you take a picture, let's say I'm in Florida and I take a picture and I just post it on Facebook. Somebody can download that picture. One thing they can do is they can look at the background and they know, just like when they're hunting for Osama bin Laden, they're looking for pictures and so on. Watch the background, where is he and so on. So they could try to do that. But just say I put a neutral thing, or they couldn't tell from the background, they just have my picture. Within the data itself, my GPS location is implanted unless I kind of turn those options off. So if the person with the right ability can get that information and find out that GPS location, the latitude longitude, is not in Maryland, it is in, it's in Florida, and they know that I'm out somewhere else on vacation. Okay, so always we'd say just be smart, and here. Just be smart is all I would say. This is what we call the hype cycle. This is from Gartner research, and they identify all technologies in different areas and put them in this kind of a cycle. And essentially, there's an initial set of technology that come out, what they call the technology trigger, and then something's nice, and then it goes viral, and everybody loves it, and that's when you have a lot of these highly inflated expectations. And then reality sets in and so on. And whether that's not a soap opera thing, that's technology, real life, and so on, but we won't talk about the individuals. But something that's important is the way we learn. Okay? In my generation, books were fantastic. We loved books, we revered books. Libraries were great places. But you can look at this. Traditional textbooks engage my students in learning. Okay? And you can see the blue out there, they disagree. Okay, quite a lot of people disagree with it. My generation, that been okay, but it's not anymore. And even for us, for immersed in this world, it's not okay. But when we say eBooks, we got to be careful. We don't mean just take a picture of that or scan it in and put it on the, in an electronic format. That's not eBooks. That is just a scanned-in version of the book. Okay. By this I mean where there should be rich media embedded. For example, if you're talking, let's say it's a history lesson about India, and you scroll over something, it should take you to a video of something, or it should make it come alive for you, as if you're taking a tour of India, as opposed to just talking about it over here. Of course, collaboration, we know about that. Let's see. The problem with ebooks is there are no standards. You have all kinds of ebook readers and so on, and everybody does it differently. You cannot take material from one ebook reader and put it to the next and so on. There's a lot of issues related to digital rights management. I'll just move on. Let's see. And then the other big thing is the pricing. How do you subscribe it? Is it based, if you're at a university, is it on a per course basis, or is it based on a per book basis? And then what's the duration? If I bought a hard copy book and I finish my course, I have for the next as long as I want. I have to throw away a lot of books, right? But I have access to it. But do you give them access forever? Or do you only give it for 3 months beyond a course? There's a lot of issues like that. Okay, quickly on educations. I'm going on to education. There's going to be a lot more, actually, here's some realities. I know many schools, I'm talking now going to K-12 side, where they tell the student, lock all your iPhones and all that stuff and iPads and so on in your locker, and then come to the classroom. Okay? But that's very real. I mean, if you're thinking of making that up, it's very common. It's by policy. And if you don't, you can get in trouble and you lead to disciplinary action. But that's like telling me, let's say, but I'm just making this whole scenario up. Let's say I go to a real rural part of India where they talk some other language. And they say, Dad, you're going to, once you come to this classroom, you can't talk English anymore. We're going to talk in some other language. Right? Obviously, I'm at a real disadvantage. My cognition is going to go way down, and so on. So that's what we do when we tell people to throw away those devices or get rid of those devices. Then other things, the gaming and simulations, that should be simulation, not solutions, are going to be a lot more than they are. And another comment is, when I say they're going to be part of the system, I don't mean just use games for the sake of using games. That's a waste of time. In fact, that's why a lot of people fight it. Oh, let's put a game in this course. And so, why? It's working fine. So the point is not to add a game, but the objective is to increase cognition and learning. Okay? So if you can use gaming technologies to do it, and if you can, that would be good. And then, let's say, here's the big thing. In a traditional class, if you go to average brick and mortar, let's say we have a session from 6 to 9. The learning takes place within the context of these four walls, right? What happens now, in an online world, of course, that's expanded out to, there's no concept of walls, but what happens, can you just be your first name? Bob. If Bob now, he gets on his phone and he's collaborating with somebody else in Africa, right? And they bring in some other rich experience and he's bringing it into his learning. Now the problem is, how do I, as a representing a university, include that learning in his assessment? How can I certify that? I cannot credential that. But he's learning that stuff. So that's one of the big challenges. How do you bring stuff from outside the classroom? And the other big advantage is, when you're working in a technology-oriented classroom, you can get your information just in time. In fact, one of the big struggles people have is you teach them something, and we just transitioned from one learning management system to the other. We have 100,000 student plus, and we transitioned all of the students from one. It used to be Educare, we're in Sakai now, and the folks were really struggling because they had this training, and they're in the classroom 3 months later, right? So they forgot most of the things. Here you can learn it. Man, and we do this quite a lot. By the way, I need to do this. I just go there and find out what it is and go and get it. We talked about augmented reality already, and so on. Let's see. And this one is not a mistake. And what it's trying to say is the education world will be turned totally upside down. That's the point of that slide. Let's see. For example, here's the thing. If you're doing research papers, all our citations are based today on the paper documents, right? But in this world, we will be based, we need to get into a world where we can actually use it based on being media-rich documents and so on. Here's another one that's actually, I know a company that's actually building eyewear, or it's an R&D phase, for folks who have ADD problem. So for example, if I'm supposed to focus here, and my eyes start wandering somewhere else, the aperture decreases automatically, so I cannot see anything else. Of course, I said, hey, that's a great idea, but why don't you just give them a little zap? You already got the electronics stuff on, and a buzz works just as well. Then there's...
We're running against our time now. I don't know what else is planned outside, so we're at our 10 minutes.
Okay.
So give you 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay. And I'll just close with right experience and thank you. With right experience, that's a product in R&D phase where they can evaluate critical thinking. Normally, evaluating critical thinking is tough, even for if I look at your essay to see if you do a lot of critical thinking. But here, there's a product that can automatically do it. And this ton of stuff. This is what I would suggest. Go to YouTube and just search for gesture-based technologies and for surface technologies, and you can see a ton of videos that really show some possibilities in that world that can come into the classroom. Okay. And with that, any
questions?
And I know at 5 o'clock, everybody's hoping, I hope nobody asks a question, right? All right. Hey, thank you all. I appreciate being a great audience. Thank you.